This video will contain 3 problems that are on solving equations that contain fractions. There are a lot of different ways to solve problems that contain fractions, but we're going to stick to what we've been doing in class. The first thing that we need to do in number 1 is we want to move the variables to one side and we want to move the constants to the other side. So I'm going to start by moving this 3/4 x over to the variable side. To do that, you need to use the inverse operation of addition. 3/4 x minus 3/4 x is equal to 0, so we're left with 5/6. On the other side, when we subtract 3/4 x, we are left with 4 1/4 x. And then we carry down the 125 thirds. Over here to the right, I'm going to show how you could have changed 5 so that it has a denominator of 4. It's just another way that we could have shown the subtraction. So 1 times 4 equals 4, which means we also need to multiply 5 times 4. So 20/4 is equal to 5, and then we take away 3/4 and we'd be left with 17/4. That's the same thing as this value over here. If you take 4 and multiply it by 4, you get 16. Then you add 1, and you'll get the same thing, 17/4 x. I like to keep my fractions as in proper fractions and not mixed numbers. It just makes it easier to solve. What we're going to do now is we're going to move this constant term to the left side using inverse operations. And when you add fractions, they need to have the same denominator. On the right side, negative 125 divided by 3 plus 125 divided by 3 is equal to 0. So we're left with 17/4 x. And then on the left side, we need to make sure that these have the same denominator before we go ahead and add them. Both 6 and 3 go into 6, so we can use a denominator of 6. The 5/6 doesn't change because it already has a denominator of 6. The 125 over 3 does change. 3 needs to be multiplied by 2 to get 6, so I also need to multiply the numerator by 2. And we get 250 divided by 6. Then we can go ahead and add these. 5 plus 250 is equal to 255/6. So now we can go ahead and write our total, 255/6. Now what we're going to do is we are going to get rid of this 17/4 that is being multiplied by the x. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal to get rid of it. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other as well. On the right side, 17 times 4 gives us 68. And 4 times 17 gives us 68. So we're left with 68 over 68x. And then on the other side, 4 times 255 gives us 1020. And 17 times 6 gives us 102. On the right side, 68 divided by 68 equals 1, so we're left with 1x. On the left side, let's just start out simply with a factor of 2. 1020 and 102 are divisible by 2. 1020 divided by 2 is 510, and 102 divided by 2 is 51. Now hopefully you'll notice 510 divided by 51. Hopefully you'll notice this and be able to tell that that's going to give you 10. So x is equal to 10. Let's look at number 2. All right, in problem number 2, we need to deal with this distributive property section first. So we copy down the 3/2 x, and then we add to that the distributive property section like we do in class. In the first blank, we put in the 1/2, and that's being distributed to the x. In the second blank, the second section, we put in the 1/2 in the first set of parentheses, and it's being multiplied by the -4. And then we continue to copy down the problem, simplifying as we go. 1/2 of -4 is -2. At this point, we've used the distributive property, and now we are going to collect like terms. On the left side, 3/2 x plus 1/2 x, we can go ahead and add because they have the same denominator. 3 plus 1 gives us 4. 4/2 x is equal to 2x. And now we need to put all the variables on one side and all of the constants on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and use inverse operations to move this constant term to the right side. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side as well. So we have 2x is equal to 8. The final step is to get rid of the 2 that is keeping the x from being alone. And we get a result of 4. X equals 4. Number 3. In this problem, we again need to use the distributive property first. So I multiply the 5 by the 1/5 w, and then I multiply the 5 by the 1/15. So the 5 is being distributed to everything inside the parentheses. And then I continue to simplify. I'm going to write this 5 in fractional form since I'm multiplying it by a fraction. I'm going to do the same thing with the 5 over here. And then I'm going to multiply across. So I multiply the 5 times the 1, and again I multiply the 5 times the 1, and I get 5/5 w. Over here I take 5 and multiply it by 1, and I get 5. 1 times 15, I get 15. And then on the left side, I have -1/4 w minus 3. That is not changed. Now I can reduce. This is equal to 1 w. 5/15 reduces to 1/3. Now that I've used the distributive property and I've simplified, I can go ahead and start moving the variables to one side and the constants to the other side. So I'm going to start by moving this -1/4 w to the right side using the inverse operation. -1/4 w plus 1/4 w equals 0, so I'm left with -3 on the left. On the right, 1/4 w plus 1 w is equal to 1 1/4 w. And I could have changed the 1 so that it has a denominator of 4. And then when you would add it, you would get 5/4. So you could also do it that way, 5/4 w plus 1/3. The next step is to move all the constants to the left side, and I'm going to do that using inverse operations. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. 1/3 minus 1/3 equals 0, so I'm left with 5/4 w. On the left side, 3 minus 1/3 equals -3 1/3, since they're both negative. You could have also written that as -10/3. And the -3 over 1 could have a denominator of 3 if you multiplied both the denominator and the numerator by 3. So we'd have -9/3 minus 1/3, and you can see that that's going to be the same as -10/3. Now I'm going to multiply each side by the reciprocal. On this side, we get 1 w. And on the other side, 4 times 10, I get 40. 5 times 3, I get 15. And a negative times a positive is a negative. Both 40 and 15 are divisible by 5. So I can go ahead and reduce. So you should get w equals -8/3. And those are the three problems on solving equations using fractions.